Hello everyone, this is Dave Stutzman and Louis Medcalf coming to you today with the CSI Specifying Practice Group. And we're a bit hampered today if you haven't already figured this out. Rob, our buddy at CSI Institute, has no internet service, so Joy Davis is filling in for him today, coming to you from somewhere. We're not even sure. I haven't even asked.
Albuquerque.
So, there you go. So now we know where you are, Joy.
That means we're interfering with her lunch.
That would be true.
Such devotion, such devotion.
Now, for all of you, and for all of you that were expecting to hear something from Leon Gorbati today, Louis and I were informed yesterday evening that Leon, his daughter, was going in for surgery today unexpectedly, and he will not be joining us, but we will be postponing that session to sometime after the new year. So Louis and I have been struggling here trying to figure out where we're going for today's session on very short notice. So what we've decided to do is to pick up again where we left off last month with specification word processing concepts, and this month hopefully to get into more advanced features than we were talking about last month. So what we've planned is, or what we'd like to ask you to do, seeing as how this was put together with fairly short notice, if any of you actually have requests of features that we should talk about or that you'd like to hear discussed, if you could put that into the chat window for us. Joy will be monitoring those, and I'll try to watch as Louis picks us up and begins the session. And we'll try to touch on everybody's request before we get off, because between Louis and I, we're not certain that we have things to fill the entire hour, so if you have specific things, we'd like really to touch on those. So, Louis, over to you.
Okay. Well, we talked a little bit last week about, or last month, I should say, about changing templates and how templates can define styles. And especially if you do work, if you're a consultant and you do work with more than one firm, this is really helpful, because if you get all your specs set up correctly, then you can create a different template for each individual firm that you do business with, and with a couple of keystrokes can make those changes. And I'm going to demonstrate that to you here in just a minute. But before I do, I thought I might show you how to import a particular style from another document that you may find useful from time to time. So if we click on this little down arrow that's almost hidden here at the bottom of the styles bar, and it shows the styles window. There we go. Down at the bottom, there are three buttons, and the one on the far right says Manage Styles. And if we click on that guy, there's a lot of things that you can do with that. But if we click on the Import Export button, what that does is bring up, these are the styles that are in this existing template. And here are some styles from my normal template. And you could even close this file and open a different one. But one of the, just to show you how this works, if I click on this edit note, now this is a little style, you'll see it here in just a minute, that I find very useful for communicating with people who are reviewing the documents that I prepare in draft form. So when we've clicked on that, then the copy button became active, and we push that, and now that style edit note has been added to the list of styles in this template. So now we can close this. Now, one of the nifty things that you can do with styles is to add them. You can make a hotkey. One of the things that David is going to coach you on is how to use your keyboard more than your mouse and speed things up. So one of the things that you can do is you go to Word Options, and then we go to Customize, and then Keyboard Shortcuts. And then we go to Styles, and then we click on Edit Note, and I already have assigned. You can press a new shortcut key here. So you actually use the keys that you would use. In this case, I'm doing Control-Shift-E. This is one that I've used for a long time, and it's the one that's already active. But that's what you do. But I could do, Control F3. I could do. There's Alt F4. That's already assigned to something. And so you can kind of work around and find something that's not assigned to anything else, and then click the Assign button.
And one of the things I noticed you did there, Louis, is you kept all of the keys close by so that you could do that command with a single hand.
With a single hand, yes. That's exactly why I chose that. Okay, so let's see how that works. So I'm writing along here, and I say, and I want to ask the person that's reviewing this document a question. So I space down and go Control-Shift-E, and that creates this nifty little box. And I'll say,
now be careful, we're broadcasting.
So that's a way for, if as a specifier, I can make probably 90% of the choices correctly. But occasionally I'll have to put in a note like this and say, choose one of the following 3 options, or fill in the blank in the paragraph below. And so this little box, because it's red and the text is different font and it's bold and everything, stands out and is a little harder to ignore, although some of my people can be very creative about ignoring my blandishments. But anyway, so that shows you 2 things. One is we learned how to bring in a style from another document. So if you get something, if you're doing a report and you do something that's kind of unique, but you have multiple chapters in that report, you need to borrow you want to copy the same style into your document. That's one way of doing that. And then we learned how to, with the keystroke, or with the options command, get in there and assign a style. And you can assign any style. So if you want, because we use so many of the paragraph 1, you may want to assign a keystroke style to that. David's going to show you some other ideas about how to do that later in the show. He can customizes his command ribbon up here. Now the next thing is, you notice that this section, all of the text, the normal is all in Arial font size 11. And so I have already got a macro written that will change this style, this template, or this section I should say, to our Office Master template for specifications. So I'm going to press on my keyboard the alternate button and number 1, to which I've assigned it, and it's that easy. And you can see that the change was dramatic, that now all of a sudden we've got Times Roman, that some of the headings are bold and the paragraphs are plain, that we went from non-printing notes to printing notes. I do that because some of my people are still not editing specs online, and so because in Master Spec the explanatory notes, the editing notes, are actually hidden text. So I changed the text to a printing font so that if somebody wants to edit the thing on paper, they can print it out and they'll see the editing notes. Makes it a little bit easier. Anyway, so that's how that works. Now,
Louis, can Can you explain what exactly it was that the macro was doing? Because I'm not sure everybody understands how you accomplished that.
Okay. Basically, the macro just goes in and, oh man, I'm pulling a blank right now. But
is it a template assignment?
It just changes the template, and then being from one template to a new template that I've made up. So we're just changing the template assignment, and then we clicked a button. There's a button that you can click that says to override all the existing styles to update them correctly.
Okay.
So
I don't mean to keep interrupting here.
No,
I don't
that's
see.
quite all right.
I don't see any comments or questions yet from anyone. Unless Joy is deleting them all as they come in. And
I most certainly am not.
so if you do have some requests, please do enter those in the chat window, and we'll try to pick those up.
Okay. Let me talk a little bit about paragraph formatting. An important feature to improve readability is a certain amount of white space, a little space that is in between paragraphs to make them easier to read. And so you'll notice when I highlighted this paragraph, there's that blue highlight, there's quite a bit of space in front of that paragraph. Let's see how much. If we go up to the paragraph section on the Home tab, we go to the paragraph section, click that down button, and we look under spacing, and sure enough, it says it's got 24 points in front of it. That means 2 full lines, not just one, but 2 lines.
Louis?
Yes?
Robert they have discovered the chat window, folks. Robert is asking, please re-explain the F3 key macro function.
Okay. All right. Okay. David, a little bit later, is going to show you actually how to write a macro. And macros can be assigned to different keys on the keyboard. And so all I did was I wrote a macro to change the templates from the standard master format template to my Office preferred format template. And I assigned that to Alt 1, a keyboard combination. I assigned this editing box, I assigned that to a specific combination of keys, and that was Shift-Control-E. It won't be that way on your computer. You have to set that up. This is something customized that you can customize. I find it, it's just, you start making these things, you need little mnemonics to help you remember them. So E for edit note, and that's the name of the style, as you can see over here, edit note. So I assigned it Control-Shift-E, and then when you do that, it will change the formatting of that paragraph to that style. For example, I can select this paragraph, I hit Control-Shift-E, and it's changed to the other paragraph formatting. I press Control-Z to undo and go back to what it was before.
Right.
I can change one of the master spec paragraphs, comment notes to one of my editing notes, and again Control-Z to return from it.
Okay,
So,
Louis, I see. We have one comment here I think we need to address again for anybody that may have joined us after we did the initial introduction. Rob Dean was asking about why we're talking about word processing instead of interoperability. And
yes, why are we?
Yes, just to go back, Rob, we've had a bit of series of disasters happen just ahead of this program. Our plan speaker, Leon Grabati, has his daughter going under surgery today, so that program is being postponed until sometime in the future. Meanwhile, Louis and I have been trying to pick up and get ready for today's session, and what we're doing is trying to continue on from last month. in discussing more of the advanced features in word processing. So I hope that explains. I hope nobody is terribly disappointed yet, and that we'll be able to still offer something insightful for you today. Back to you, Les.
Okay. Well, I hope that that answers the question, that with the options button, you press that button up there in the upper left-hand corner, you go to Word Options, you go to Customize, and then to Keyboard Shortcuts. And basically any control, any item that you can do from the menu bar, you can assign to a shortcut key. And so I simply, as I say, you go down here to Styles, and then you can pick any one of these styles and assign that to a shortcut key. And that's what I did with my edit note, my notorious red boxes. I was talking a little bit about, for good readability, to have white space. This paragraph is typically has 12 points. That's one whole space in front of it. Now you can also control with line spacing. You can go to space and a half, double lines, and so forth. And you can actually squish your lines closer together you want, or spread them apart. There's a really great deal, a lot of control, almost at the level of desktop publishing. There is actually a keyboard shortcut for that, for one space ahead. If you hold down the Control key and press 0, you'll notice it removes that one space. And again, press the 0, it goes back and forth. You can go back to the normal spacing. Now, I like a little extra space between the articles, so I've formatted my summary style to have 24 points instead of 12 points ahead of the thing. I also don't like for the article heading to be separated from the next paragraph. So in this same paragraph dialog box, if you click on the Line and Page Breaks tab, at the bottom, or at the top there, the second checkbox from the top says Keep with Next, and I've checked that. And what that means is that if I don't have that, let's just show you. See that little black dot next to it disappeared? So now if I'm typing along and I'm typing and typing and typing, all of a sudden I can have the article heading on one page and the next paragraph on the following page. But I don't like that. So what I do is, and again I've done a keyboard shortcut with Alt-N, N for next, I can restore that feature that now that paragraph, the article heading paragraph will always stay with the next paragraph. You will never get an automatic page break in between the paragraphs. Well, I think that just cleans it up. Now for subparagraphs, the normal thing in master spec and most word processing systems is to have 0 spaces ahead. Let's check that. I go to the paragraph, spacing before, 0 points. Okay. But in my way of thinking, that's just a little bit crowded. So in my template, what I have done, you notice what I did there was I pressed, if you change the formatting of a paragraph idiosyncratically, an individual paragraph, and you want to return it to the style definition, hold down the Control key and press the Q button. Let me show you that again. We'll put a whole line in front of it. That's not the normal style. So I hold down the Control key, press Q, and now it's returned to its normal style.
And that is a standard Microsoft function.
That's a standard function, the Control Q. I'll get to another one here. That's a handy little feature that I use a lot. And you can see, though, that what I've done is added a little bit of space. I've added 3 points in front of the first subparagraph. And I just think it makes it a little bit easier to read. That's purely a personal preference. You can make it 4 points. You can make it 6 points. Or you could do the standard 0 points. It's just something that helps a little bit. Now,
before you move off of that, Louis,
yes?
you might want to try this too. Instead of having to always go back up to the paragraph ribbon, if you, with that highlighted paragraph, if you just right-click,
oh yes, if you go to the right-click, you can get to the paragraph, that same dialog box there.
Right, and then you're working in 2007, and
yes.
that was the first place where they added it. There's a checkbox under the spacing, and this is something that actually will duplicate the master spec typical kind of paragraph spacing.
Yes.
So you no longer need, if you use that, don't add spacing between paragraphs of the same style, you're going to end up duplicating the same function that master spec currently relies on a macro to produce. So you can set like the paragraph 1 level to have 12 points before, but it'll only put the 12 points between the A paragraph and the 1 paragraph.
Yes, what master spec does is that first subparagraph has 6 points of space before it, but the following paragraphs have 0 points spacing between them. But anyway, so, which to me is, I don't like that. I'd like just a little bit of, just a skosh of space. So I put 3 points, but you might experiment with 4 points. So we did the control Q that returns if we change the formatting either accidentally or on purpose, and we want to change it back to what the actual definition is, control Q will do that. Now another handy keyboard shortcut that you might want to know about is that if you do, you can see that in master spec some of the letters have been made bold. Let's try a different one down here. Let's make this guy not only bold, but let's make it red, and we say, oh no, that's really not what I want. So I select the paragraph and I hit Control Spacebar, and it returns the character formatting to what is defined in the style sheet. So that's a handy thing, that if you accidentally hit something and maybe we go to, something completely different, and we want to say, that really doesn't look right. Let's go back to the original style. Hold down the Control key, press the space bar, and it gets you back to where you are.
And that's also a standard function.
And that is a standard function. You don't have to program that in. So those are two keyboard shortcuts that, especially if you're doing reports or something where you may be experimenting with some different styles that are different from writing your specifications, that might be helpful. Let's see. Well, why don't I pop this over to you, David? You want to take care of some more, your title, Avoid Mouse Addiction, Learn Shortcuts. And why don't you show a few more?
Show a few more? You may not want to know the ones that I use. Okay, so I guess we have to rely on Joy if you're going to pass this back over.
Okay, hang on just a moment.
Sorry to wake you up, Joy.
I was not asleep. I just don't want to accidentally pass to the wrong party.
Aha.
We really appreciate Joy stepping up here at the last minute. This program was kind of the perfect storm. Not only did our speaker cancel, but then our normal staff liaison lost the the Institute doesn't have internet connections today, and then on top of that, when I tried to use my headset and microphone, that didn't work. I had to dial in, so you're not getting my normal dulcet tones. But we appreciate Joy volunteering to assist us with this important and exciting endeavor.
Oh, anything for our specifying practice group.
Okay, well, Louis, you covered some of the things in talking about the keyboard commands, really, that you can customize your keyboard to just about anything that you like. But what I want to do is point out that in some of these menu items, that we have a number of things that are actually available already as keyboard commands. So every time you can get into one of these that now tabs on the ribbons, some of these things are actually already assigned to keyboard commands. And you're probably familiar with all the ones that are typical: the cut, the paste, the copy, and I'm sure that you're all using those because those go by so quickly, with the Control-C for copy, Control-V for paste, and most specifiers, I'm sure, are familiar with it. What Word has done, though, is it's made it a little bit more difficult, because where in 2003 you used to have the drop-down menus, you actually used to see the keyboard commands right next to each one of the features that had a keyboard command available. In 2007 and 10, you don't get that same advantage, but they are still available. If you still have a copy of 2003, you can go back and look at those. If you don't have the 2003, you can get to the keyboard commands. And Louis was showing you here, we go to the options window and then customize ribbon, which doesn't seem to really fit with keyboards, but there they all are. And if you pick any of these and you scroll down through, you can pick them and you can see the different commands that are already assigned. It's a lot more difficult to find them this way. There's no way that I know that you can actually print this list out. But if you're really finding that you're relying on any one particular command continuously, I would suggest strongly that you come in and look at the keyboard, see if it's already assigned. If you don't like the assignment, just make the change. And you can actually have multiple assignments for each key. And here you can see bold is assigned to Control-B, and it's also Control-Shift-B, and if you want to add a third, you can make it Control-Shift-Alternate-B if you like to use all four fingers to do the selection. So this is something that's really flexible, and I take advantage of it. I use keyboard commands wherever I can instead of relying on a mouse. One of the things that I wanted to get into today, and that's to do a little bit of basic macro development, is I know that when we did the poll last time around, there were not many of you that seemed to be using macros regularly. Now, Louis came up with a suggestion, and that's the one I'm going to try to show first. I've planned two. The first one, most of us are probably working with master spec, or have at least seen master spec as we go through our specifying career. And master spec, as you may know, has some of these units of measure shown in various colors. And master spec also has tools that will allow you to select inch, pound, or metric. But when you do that and use the master spec tool, it doesn't really remove the style that's used to mark this text. And even though you go in and you select inch, pound, you delete the metric, it will physically delete the metric units of measure. But what it does with the English is simply change the color from red to to black and the style is still there. Sometimes what will happen is you'll close the document, you'll reopen it, it reassigns the standard master spec template, and all of a sudden all of your inch-pound units of measure are red again, even though when you last left it, they were black. So what we want to do is just record a real simple macro, and this one is virtually entirely recordable, and I'll walk you through this to show you how we're going to do it. So,
David,
yes?
Before you do that, you do need to point out to folks that out of the box, they may not have access to the developer tab on the ribbon.
Okay, I will show you
how to turn that on.
All right. You can come back over here to this File button, and it is Options and Customize Ribbon. And in 2000, I guess this is the same in 7.
It's similar.
2000.
Actually, you can right-click on 2007.
Yeah,
on
and you can too here. 2010 gives you much more flexibility in managing the ribbon and the tabs than 2007. So if you're thinking that you need to customize any of the ribbon or tabs, 2010 is worth the investment just for that. So here are all the tabs that are actually active, and out of the box, the developer tab is not active. So if you're working with macros, I really suggest that you do come in and turn on developer tab, and I have it on only because I deal with this all the time, so I thank you, Louis, for pointing that out.
Yeah, because otherwise you can't write a macro.
Well, you can. It's maybe a little bit more awkward to get to it. My complaint with some of these tabs, if you don't turn on the developer tab, the way you get to recording a macro is you go to View, Macros, and then you can record a macro. It just doesn't seem to make sense to me that you go to a View tab to record a macro.
Not very intuitive.
Right. Now, the developer tab gives you more flexibility in dealing with the macros and actually gives you a direct link to be able to open up the Visual Basic window. And what I'll do is I'm going to open that so that you can see some of what's going on. I'm just going to readjust here because I don't think we really need full screen both sides. Oh, lost that one. Got to be a little bit more careful picking that. There we go. All right, and you can see I have some macros already started in here, and these are all over here in this window. These are all the installed templates that I'm currently using. When you just simply record a macro, you're going to record it in your normal template, and it'll save it in a module in this folder called modules, and it'll save everything under a new macros template. Okay. So if we want to go ahead and start recording, so we hit the button to start recording, the first thing comes up, give the macro a name, and we're going to be deleting inch-pound, so let's just go ahead and call it that, or deleting the metric.
Now, folks, please notice that he ran those words together because I don't know why, but the macro names can't have spaces in between the words.
Or special characters.
Or special characters.
But
so
we can
you have to run things together like that.
We can do that.
You can't do the underscore.
Right.
Like the old DOS days.
Right, right. And you can pick where you want to choose, or pick where you want to store this macro. So if you have your own template, you can store it there as opposed to the normal template. You can actually store it with a particular document, and you can give an additional description if you like. You can assign a button and a keyboard command all here right at the start of defining this macro. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. So you can see over here on the left, because I have this Visual Basic window open, so you can start to see it starting already to fill in the macro that we're recording. So it created the basic macro. All right, now, once you're recording a macro, the importance for knowing keyboard commands, mouse commands in recording macros don't work because the macro records the result. It does not record how you accomplished the result. So you can see the cursor right now is blinking a couple lines down on the page. Whenever I start a macro, the first thing I want to do is go to the top of the document so I know where I am. So Control Home takes the cursor to the top of the document. Now to find the metric, to wipe out all of the metric measure, we can open up the Find command, Control F. We can go up here and select an advanced find, and this will get us to the typical kind of a find window that you're all familiar with even from working in Word 2003. We're not going to look for any particular text. We're going to look for a style. To find the style, we're going to go down here to the Format button, select Style, and now we're going to scroll down through. These are all the available styles. The style that we're looking for is Master Specs SI style, which is right here. And you can see it tells you that it's a font color teal. So we're going to pick that, and we're going to replace it. So we're going to find everything that is marked with the SI style, and we're going to replace it. We're going to replace it with nothing, which is perfectly acceptable. So we're going to hit Replace All, and you can see it's found 31 occurrences, and it's replaced all of those with nothing. And if you look over here now, you can see exactly what the macro has done. We did the selection home key, which went to the top of the document, and we set all of the find commands. So all of these things represent all of the settings in this find replace window. So you can see here we have the replacement text is nothing. The forward tells the direction of the search. The wrap tells that it's going to continue around at the end of the document and keep going until it finds everything, and so on and so forth. So after we get through with all the find settings, the last thing is it's going to, with the document selection, it's going to go in and it's going to replace all. Okay.
Now, David.
Yes.
We had an inquiry from one of our regular listeners, Mr. Dennis Elrod from Memphis, Tennessee, with whom I used to work for about 12 years. He's a great guy. And he was asking about if you had a spec you get from a manufacturer or from some other source and want to convert it to master spec styles or to some other group of styles, how do you do that? And this is the way we would do it, is that you'd start a macro to change styles, and you go in and find the name of the style in the current format, and then replace with, and then put in the appropriate master spec style. Now you have to already have loaded the master spec styles into the template, otherwise of course it won't work. And there is a problem with most manufacturer specifications. All have normal style. They just format the paragraphs idiosyncratically. They don't use styles. But if you get something from, Dennis was especially asking about some old specs that I had created where I used headings, heading 1, heading 2, heading 3, instead of the article and paragraph 1, heading 2, and so forth.
Right.
So that's how you would do that.
Right. And yes,
you just
so
have to do it, and you'd have to do it for each individual style that you want to change. Add that to the macro.
correct. Correct. So let me keep going here. So now we found the SI style and we've deleted all of them by replacing with nothing. So now what we want to do is go in and find the inch pound style. Did I go past it?
remember what its name
There,
is.
there it is.
IP.
IP style. Okay. Now, what we want to do here is we're not going to replace. What I want to do is show you that what we want to do is go and find the next occurrence. Okay, so here's the very first occurrence of the inch pound, and you can see it's still in red. And you see over here in the this window, again, it reset all of the find functions. We're now looking for the inch pound style, and we still have the replacement text as 0 or as nothing. But when we did the find, instead of finding and replace all we did was find. Okay? Now, I can continue to hit the find button until I know that I have all of them. All I'm going to end up doing is repeating the sequence that I just got done recording. This is where we need to be a little bit creative and modify the macro. So what I want to do is stop here, stop the recording, and I'll add one more step, and we'll go back to
David,
the.
Could we just redefine the style to get rid of the red color?
We could do that, but this is more fun.
Okay. I always go for more fun.
This is more fun. Okay, so the last step I want to add is the one that Lewis had shown you earlier, is to reset the font. So resetting the font with Control and Space, and we reset the font to black. Okay, so now what I want to do is go over here to back up to the top, stop recording, and you come back over here and say, okay, see, and then it added reset the font right after that did the find command. Now, one of the powers of macros is to be able to repeat things over and over and over and be able to set a way for the repetition to eventually stop. One of the great ways to do this for this kind of an application where we know that we have multiple instances of the inch pound is we just come in and add what in effect becomes, anybody that's familiar with programming going back into the 70s when I learned it with Fortran, in effect a do loop. So what we're going to say is while a condition is true, that it's going to keep finding all of the occurrences and keep resetting all of the text. So while selection, and you see what's happening here, that Microsoft is trying to help fill some of this information in. While selection found, and this is actually a variable that Microsoft uses, equals, and the find command can either return true or false. So either it finds it or it doesn't. So while it's true, we want it to reset it, and because we have to end this while command, the while command ends with when. Who picked that? I'm not sure. We're going to copy this find command and paste it down here. So now what we do is we have a macro where after it finds, it does the find. If it's true, it's going to reset the font. Now, the one extra step in here is because you see on the right-hand side that the text is still selected. If we leave the text selected, it's going to, the next time we run the find command, it's going to run the find only on that selected text, and it's not going to find it. So we're going to add one more step. We're going to collapse the selection and we're going to send it to the end of the selection. All right? Now, what I'd like to do, and if I've got this right, this will work beautifully. So I want to put this away, and I'm going to reopen the file so that you can see that we've got this all done correctly. Desktop. I'm going to put this find window away. And now that we have this macro recorded, one of the nice things that you can do is using the F8 command. And that's what I'm going to do now, is I'm just going to press F8, and you'll see it highlights the very first line. What F8 will allow you to do is to walk through the macro line by line. It'll execute everything as it does it. So when we get here, it's actually going to do the replace. Okay, so if I come over here and scroll through, just to show you, see where we have the red, there's no more inch pound. So that's all been deleted. I'll come back over here and continue running the macro, one line at a time. Okay, so now we're at the inch pound. Okay, there it is. And we're looking to see if it found something, and you can see here if I hover over this, it's actually telling me that it is true. So it'll go to the next line, we'll reset the font, it'll collapse the selection to the end, and it'll find it again. When it gets to wend, it repeats this whole group, and it'll continue repeating until it's found all of them, and this statement where it's looking to find the inch pound style is no longer true. So I can do this all manually. I can keep doing this, and it'll keep going through cycling. But once we know it's working, one of the easy ways is to go up here to the top and just hit this continue command, and it'll continue all the way through. We're done. So now you have a macro that will actually remove all of these inch pound and actually reset all of the font for the units of measure. So even if you do save this and open it up again, you'll never see the red text. Is that better than just changing the text, Louis?
That's one way, yeah. Another way, of course, is one of my favorites is select all and then do the control shift control spacebar trick to return all the formatting to the original.
Right, and that would work fine. That would work fine if you had all the editing done. But yes, because in this case where we still have choices left, it will reset all the bold text. Because if I hit Control Space now, it's going to reset all of that.
Right. Yeah, there's different ways to skin the cat.
Right. So there.
Now we have a question that relates to this. One of our listeners said, where do you learn the master spec style names such as SI? So why don't you show them that style?
Okay. We'll go right up here to the style portion of the home ribbon, and this corner box that tries to tell you that there's a drop down, you can open that, and I am going to probably get this wrong. Is it this one?
Well,
I'm looking for.
I think this is what our listener wants. That is the list of all the styles, and
right,
frankly, the ones in master spec are not very mnemonic. They're not easy to remember. I think the ones in spec text are a little easier to deal with, or used to be, I should say. You know, and they're grouped together so that you don't have to, you know, that the article heading style is, you know, in master spec is a long ways from the first paragraph style.
Right. What I was looking for is there's a way to display only the styles that are active.
Oh, that, yes.
And I think it's in, oh, here it is. In use. Okay, let me back up because I didn't explain what I did. All right.
Okay.
So down here at the bottom is options. I don't use this regularly, so I'm pardon me for fumbling around. But you can in use or in the current document, either one, or all styles. So if we pick current document, now it's going to display only the styles that show up in this master spec document. So now it becomes a lot more, it's a lot simpler to find those that are being used. So you can see master spec uses for paragraphs, it's PR 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for the indent and outline. Use PRT. The style name is always at the end. PRT for the part titles. And yeah, they tended, or they opted for the 3-letter, except for the units of measure. So everything is 3 letters. EOS for end of section, ART for article title.
Oh, they're all TLAs, huh? 3-letter acronyms.
3-letter acronym, except for, of course, there can never be. Okay, except
the
for
IP and a couple of others. Yes. Hey, about the keyboard shortcuts. Listener Steve Groth sent in the suggestion that you can get a complete list of all the keyboard shortcuts in a printable form by doing a Google search for word keyboard shortcuts and follow up the result that takes you to a Microsoft page. And
all right. Well, thanks. I didn't know that.
That's a great idea.
That's a great idea. Okay, we're going to run out of time here. We're almost coming up on the hour. I was going to show a macro that will allow you to do headers and footers. And because we have master spec open, what I want to do is show you one thing to just really be careful of if you haven't seen it before. Master spec, when they updated, I think it may have been a year or 2 years ago by now, if you go to the footers, all of their footer text occurs in a table.
It's been that way for
a while.
Several years, I think, David.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
now,
we hates it. We hates it.
Okay, now if you're trying to deal with this, I will warn you that if you delete this table, if you grab the entire table like this and delete it, you will destroy your document. No, you will destroy your document. Oh yes. You will not open that document again, or you'll open the document, you will never put a footer in that document again.
Really?
Really. So the thing that you really need to know about this, if you want to get rid of this table, is, let me see, I've managed to get this off the table, off the screen here.
But you need to select it first again.
No, I don't.
Oh, okay.
No, I don't. I don't think so. So if I go up here to the table, because the cursor is actually inside the table. And,
oh, that's true.
Right? So you have a couple choices that are table tools. So you have this design, which is fine. That's not really helpful for what we're trying to do. But if you go to layout, and what you want to do,
over there on the right top.
Right here.
Oh.
You want to split this table. Now, when you press that button, you notice what happens is I have all my hidden characters turned on. So we end up with a paragraph mark, which is not in the table. And as long as you split this table, now you can come in and delete this table and you won't destroy the document.
Could you also use just convert the table to text?
Possibly. I have not. I have not tried that. I have not tried that. But if you delete that table, I will tell you, you'll never put a footer in the document. You'll get instantly an error message. I'll put it back, and not that I want to create problems, but I'll show you. If I just simply highlight the table and delete it, and now it's going to make a liar out of me.
Yep. At the top, can you go to footer? Press the go to footer button. In the
go to footer. And you see where I'm going? Nowhere.
Yeah, it doesn't go anywhere. Interesting.
Right. It normally gives you an error message as soon as you delete that table. Okay. So here we are, only a couple minutes left. Were there any other questions? Because I'm only working on a single screen here, Louis, so I'm not watching them.
Comment, you can also change the IP style color by modifying the IP style. Yes, yes, that's certainly a way you can do that. Last week we talked about you can select all the instances of the IP style from there. Show them how to do that.
Right.
Select all.
Select all.
And then change the style definition.
Right. And you notice what happened when I ran that macro. There's no occurrences. It's not being used.
Right. Because
we reset all that. And I have this style window open, and when you're recording macros, anything that you're doing in this style window, like selecting all styles and reassigning it, will not record.
No, it does not work. I've tried that.
Right. That will not record.
Listen, what David showed you, the example of writing a macro may look complex, but really getting a book and spending an hour or so to work out something like that can save a lot of time over a year. And most macros can be done simply by walking through the actions that you would do yourself. And it's handy to know there's extra little tricks like David showed about the making the thing repeat on itself, but many macros don't require that, and we don't want you to be intimidated. We want you to get out there and play with it. So if you're doing a repetitive task and you can figure out in your mind what the steps are to do it and the keyboard commands to execute that, you can write a macro, assign it to a keyboard shortcut, and with 2 keystrokes execute rather a complex set of actions. And just play around with it and see what you can do. This has turned out to be a little more popular than either of us thought, although one of our listeners points out that if you're using BSD spec link, you don't have to fool around with this craziness. But many of us write documents other than specifications from time to time, and writing memos or writing reports and writing things, if you're writing preliminary project descriptions that are not supported by BSD spec link, some of these tips and tricks may come in handy for you. So, this is one of those things that if you have on an ongoing basis, like next month, we might have another topic, but if you, we want to support you, and if you have a question about a specific thing, we can certainly work in 5 or 7 minutes during the presentation to deal with those kinds of practical questions, because what we're here for is to support you in your daily work and try to make it easier, faster, and more enjoyable.
So we appreciate your patience with us today, because this is certainly something that we put together pretty much last minute in hopes that we'd be able to still get something that would be useful for you. But the next meeting is scheduled for January 5th, only a couple of days after the new year, and we hope that you can all come back and join us then.